challenging the brothers' response to the brisa. Kol shechayei Reuven harin achay be'eved. Whatever one is liable for when his ox kills a free man, he's also liable for when his ox kills a slave.
Ben Korin, Hayf Eved.
Bain
Kofer, Bain Balis.
Bechafer, Bain Bamisa. Whether in regard to koffer or in regards to the death of the ox.
Right. So whenever there's a chiyuv for Ben Korin in these matters, there's also a chiyuv for an Eved. Things like the dinim are the same. Bain b'kofer, bain b'misa. That goes for the din of kofer, it goes for the din of misa. Meaning the misa of the animal, the schila. Okay, so.
Alright, so.
We have a question over here on this statement in the Brisa.
And it says here that Rav Shmuel, Rav Yitzchak explains his challenge. Kofer be'eved mi ika. There's an obligation to pay kofer for a slave.
Who's saying this? Is it Gemora or is this somebody else? This
Rav
is
Shmuel Bar Yitzchak is saying it.
Mi ika.
He's the one who brought the Brisa, so presumably he's the one who's asking the question on the Brisa.
The article fills in a bit here. Will I read that or?
Okay.
Kofer be'eved mi echa. Now the Brisa cannot mean that there is kofer for the death of a slave as there is for the death of a free man, or is there an obligation to pay kofer for a slave who was killed? No. The Torah obligates payment of a special fine, lav damim. Rather, when referring to a liability to kofer, is not the Brisa actually alluding to the damages to which one is liable when he kills? And he goes on to say, this Brisa then states that in any circumstance in which there is an obligation to pay damages for the death of a free man, there exists a similar obligation when the victim is a slave. And he asked that as a question too.
Because what did Rabbah say about the din of damim for an Eved?
No.
There was no payment of damim on the din of the Eved. Right? In the cases that Rabbah said, the 4 cases, 2 of them for Ben Horin, 2 of them for Eved. The 2 cases of Eved, where the shore killed the Eved, there was no case of payment of damim. Rabbi said, "Lo yishalem damim," in the case of the Eved. So here, Rav Shmuel Bar Yitzchak is bringing the Brisa, and he's claiming that instead of what it says specifically about kofer, it must be referring to damim. Kofer it can't be referring to because there's no such din by an Eved to pay kofer. So what does it mean that just like the Ben Horin is chayiv, so to the Eved is chayiv in kofer? The Eved doesn't have any din of kofer. So he says it must mean that it's referring to the din of damim, and therefore you see that the Brisa holds that just like the Ben Horin pays damim, so too you pay damim for the shore killing an Eved also. And that's a challenge to Rabbah, because Rabbah said that no, there's a difference between the dinim of Ben Chorin and the dinim of Eved. The dinim of Eved, they don't pay damim when the animal kills the Eved. Okay? Let's see Rashi. Rashi says, El lav damim. Nachman, you want to read?
Okay. Here the lav damim.
El lav damim.
So it should have been, instead of said kofir, should have ben chorin v'chayav be'evid bein b'kofir bein b'mita. Should have said in the Gemara, bein damim bein mita. Okay.
In other words,
Should have said instead of saying kofir, should have said damim. That's what he's saying.
that's what. In other words, we're saying that's what the brisa means.
That's
So
what it means.
we're saying he's saying Shmuel Bar Yitzchak that the word kofir in the brisa is lav dafka. Here's an example of a word in a brisa which is lav dafka. It's not precise. It doesn't mean exactly that. It doesn't mean literally the din of kofir. But it means, just like kofir is a payment when the animal kills somebody, so that's why they said kofir. But we don't mean exactly kofir. It's lav dafka. Rather, what the kavanah of the brisa is it's referring to a payment that both a ben chorin and killing an eved have in common. What would that be? He tainas, of Shmuel Bar Yitzchak tainas, that it's referring to the case of kofir. Not the case of kofir, the case of damim. So according to that, it would come out, if that's right, what he's saying, that the brisa is mandating a din of payment of damim, even in the case of eved, just like there is in the case of killing a ben chorin. If so then that would be kasher to Rabbah, because Rabbah explained that no, there's no payment of damim when the animal kills an eved.
Here the lav damim. Rashi. Ketani, we learn out. Kol shechayav ben chorim chay be'evid. Kol shechayav, there was chayav with ben chorim. Chayav be'evid is the same thing. Be'evid. Kivan she'amarta ben chorim was talking to Rabbi. I guess he was addressing this to Rabbi. Kivan she'amarta ben chorim al pi atzmo shman damim. Ken, Amai, why? Tanid, we learn out to be Evid, in Omashlim al pi atzmo. He doesn't pay them al pi atzmo. So he's asking a question on Rabbah. Why do you say that, Rabbah? Why do you say that he's not Chayav Damim?
Even right, Kevin the Martha ben Chorin al pi atzmo, in the case where he, where the owner admits that the animal is a muad. That's the admission over here. And we do have edus on the etzem maisa that the animal gored, but al pi atzmo refers to the din of the fact that the animal was a muad. Because without the animal being a muad, there won't be any din of damim. Oh, now that's interesting. Is that so? The payment of damim is only on the animal which is a muad. I mean that it has to be. That's what it has to mean. That case that he's mishalim. This is the second case. No, I'm sorry.
No.
I'm sorry. This is not like I said. this was the case of Heicha Deleka Eidim at all, where there's no Eidim at all. That's the case where in the case of the Ben Chorin he'll pay Damim.
That's the second case.
Second case.
That's the second case.
So there's no Eidim on the Etzem Maisa, not like I said. There's no Eidim on the Etzem Maisa that the animal gored. That's the admission of the owner of that animal. He admitted that the animal gored. So now there won't be a din skila, and therefore there won't be a din kofar. There's a kosev. But there will be a din damim. So, okay, in that case, that same case, Kevin de Amar, Ben Chorin, Al Pi Atzmo, Mishalim damim. You did say that, Rabbah. So, Amai Katani, so why then does it say in the Mishnah, Legabi Eved, Einu Mishalim? He doesn't pay Al Pi Atzmo. In other words, you, Rabbah, you are the one who differed with Abaye. Abaye said, you know that payment that it says that he is Mishalem Al Pi Atzmo, that payment, Abaye said, this that says in the Sefer that you don't pay Al Pi Atzmo for the Eved. That could not be talking about knas. It's got to be that could not be talking about damim. Rather, that's got to be talking about the knas. Since he was moda, he doesn't pay the knas, because if it was damim, why shouldn't he pay? That was what Abai said, and Rabbah was the one who said no, it's talking about damim, and Taka he doesn't pay damim. That was the chiddush. That was the way Rabbah explained the Mishnah. And now Rashi is referring to that, and he's saying, since you said that Al Pi Atzmo, case of the Ben Chorin, referred to the payment of damim, so if so then why the Brisa here is saying that there would be a payment of damim for the Eved too? So Amai Katani, why say Legabi Eved that why do you say that this that he doesn't pay is that he doesn't pay the damim? Okay. Okay. Because Amai Katani doesn't really refer to what Rabbah said. It refers to the Mishnah. Katani is that we learned in the Mishnah. Why did we learn in the Mishnah? Meaning in the Seifa of that Mishnah in Ksubas that we brought before. Why did we learn that the Eved doesn't pay Al Pi Atzmo? And you, Rabbah, you were the one that said, what is it that he doesn't pay Al Pi Atzmo? Damim. Because you said that the Reisha was talking about the payment of Damim. That Ben Chorin will pay Al Pi Atzmo. What will he pay? He'll pay Damim. That's what the subject of the Mishnah was. So you were the one that said that the Mishnah's subject was Damim. And so, according to you, why should the Mishnah say that he doesn't pay the Eved Al Pi Atzmo for killing the Eved? He doesn't pay Al Pi Atzmo Damim. This Brisa says that he does pay. The dinim of the Eved are the same as the din of the Ben Chorin.
Does this Breita, it's called Meitiv?
Meitiv is such a
Meitiv?
Mativ, Rav Shmuel is asking on Rabbah from a Brisa.
Okay.
Brisa, Tosefta, what does it say on the... Yeah, it's a Tanaic source.
Tanaic source.
That's the general... that's the question. He's not going to be able to say, well, I argue on the Brisa. It's only Gemora. And you see here the Brisa is saying that there is a payment, or at least according to Rav Shmuel bar Rav Yitzchak. That's the way he wants to explain the Brisa. Right? It doesn't say clearly at all in the Brisa that it's talking about Damim. That was his suggestion. Because what it does say doesn't make too much sense. Kofir. So it can't be talking about kofir. So he says it must be that it's talking about damim. Oh, if it's talking about damim, then you're saying the din of payment of damim for an eved is equal to the din of the payment of damim by the ben chorin. Just like he's going to be chayiv kol shechayiv ben chorin, chayiv eved.
The dummy it can't be shloshim, but that's you can't change it to the Eved. It's like the dummy is going to be also shloshim.
Dummy can't be shloshim.
Can't be shloshim. That's a
Only
knas.
knas. Only knas.
Knas is a fixed payment. No matter what if the eved died, doesn't matter who the eved was, what he would be sold for in the shuk. The payment of shloshim shkolim, that's written in the Torah. It's a fixed amount. So that's why it's a knas. That's one of the aspects of a knas. That a knas is a fixed amount, unrelated to the actual damage. Damim is an appraisal of the damage, of damages.
So we're gonna have to make a figure. How much is Eved's worth?
When we say damim, yeah.
This is dummy. So so what did we just say? We said the shloshim is
Damage that was due.
That was damage that was done. You know, we're changing the
Shloshim
words.
is not. Shloshim is not. Shloshim is not. It's just a fixed amount that the Torah says. It's not. It's not.
Maybe he was a good worker.
What?
Maybe he was a good worker. He's worth a lot of money.
Maybe it was.
Yeah.
Well, what would happen if he was actually worth 30 shekels? 30 shekels?
Still.
Doesn't matter. It's not a knas. It's not called a knas.
That's the
No,
dummy.
It's still called damim.
Because here, the halacha to pay over here, according to Rav Shmuel Bar Yitzchak, is damim. There's not going to be payment of knas. Why? Knas is pater on.
Yeah.
Right.
Because there was a al pi atzmo.
But if he was actually worth 30 shekels?
Then it would just be like a coincidence that it worked out that that's what the dummy would be, but it wouldn't be called a payment of knas just because it happens to be that it's shloshim shekel.
Okay.
The reason why you're paying the shloshim shekel would be because that was the din of the nezik. That was the appraisal of the nezik. The damim corresponds to the nezikin of the damages that was done. Knas doesn't correspond to damage. Why pay shloshim? Because that's what the Torah says when this happens. That's what the Torah says. You pay shloshim for this eved and that eved and that eved and that eved. It doesn't matter who the eved is. Shloshim. That's the payment of knas. So it's unrelated to the damage. It's a fixed amount. What it says in the Torah. That payment is called a knas. It's just a penalty because that's what the Torah says that you have to pay if that's what you did.
As a matter of interest,
It's not compensating for damages that were suffered.
As a matter of interest, do you know offhand where it says that? Where the Torah mandates it?
What's the it that you're referring to, Roy?
The
damim?
Damim. Yeah, no, knas.
The knas?
Knas says knas is kofar. They just changed the name.
We said that the payment of knas, Ashor Yisak,
Pasuk says it. The pasuk gives the knas. That's the one in Shmos that we talked about. The Shmos, that was the one, Roy, we did that pasuk. Chaf Aleph Lamed Bet, 21:32. In Eved Yigach Ashor, O Ima, O Ama, Kesef Shloshim Shekel, Yitain La'adonai. So Ashor Yisakeh. That was the pasuk. That says it's 130 shekels.
I haven't got to it.
Yeah, you have it over here. You have it over here.
Oh,
I don't know if he has it as a Gemora, then we'll tell him what.
No, the second one.
oh.
You have it.
Mm.
You have it.
I'm going crazy here. Where?
In Eved Yagach Shor.
Isn't there a Masoras Shas over here?
I haven't got
There should be a
No, it's in what it's
Torah.
there should be a Torah or.
Yeah, Torah has it. I'm not sure what his Gemara has on the article, what they do on the page on the sides.
Alright, I didn't
Oh
know-
yeah, here it is. Chaf Aleph Lamed Beis. Okay. It's the second Torah or.
Yeah, this is the second.
You have Torah or?
I haven't even knows about that.
Where's the base?
In
Yeah.
Eved Yigach.
Yeah, the pasuk is like in the middle of Mem Gimel Amid Aleph, and it has a little base in block letters. Kesef Shloshim Shkolim Yitain Ladono Bashor Yisakel. So that base refers you to the Torah or, and you could, if you have a Torah or a Sholem, you could see the pasuk over there. Okay. Okay, so now let's go further. Yechiel, let's read the Gemara. Iked Amrei.
What is this? Iked Amrei. Amar le Rava.
Who motive?
Sorry, from the top.
First word in the line is
Mativ Rav Shmuel. Mativ Rav Shmuel.
No. There's another Ikad Amri one line before where you started. Half a line above.
Iked Delek.
Who motive la? Who mefrek la? It's at the end of the line. Who motive? Who motive?
the first word in the line that you're looking for is the word Bain. It's the
Bain.
fourth wide line
Yefa.
in the
You got it?
first
Yeah.
the fourth wide line.
Hu Mativ
Yeah.
le. Hu Mefrek le. Iked Amrei.
Wait, I don't understand this. Who's talking this now? Who's
The
saying
Gemara's talking.
this?
The Gemara's saying Iked Amri.
Yeah.
There's those who say
Yeah.
Who Mosiv Law. He asked the question.
Who has the question?
Rav Shmuel.
Shmuel.
He asked the question.
Right.
Who Mefarik Law. And he gave the answer.
Which answer?
The answer that the Gemara is going to give right now. Right now, the Gemara is telling us.
I thought Rabbah says this. What's going to
He's
come
going
out?
to what Rabba said. He's going to his.
There's
so
another
there's
Iked
this.
Amre. There's two views over here that the
Yeah.
Gemara presents. The Gemara says Iked Amre
Yeah.
twice.
Right.
So the first Iked Amre means there's those who say. So the first Iked Amre, the Gemara lists. There's those who say.
Yeah.
He who asked the question, he answered it. Who Mosiv Law? He the one that posed the question. Who Mefarik Law? He's the one that resolved it. Mefarik. Mosiv, he got us into a pickle. Mefarik, he extricated us out. Mefarik, I think it's one of the toldus. One of the toldus of
Shabbat.
yeah. You take out the
It says
the
milk
pea
from it.
from the pod. You got a problem.
And then milking a cow is also mishrak, I think?
So
Not
that's
sure.
that's the idea of extracting yourself out of the problem that you got us into. He was the one that got Rabbah into the problem. He posed this question on him from the Brisa, who Mefarik Law, and he extricated Rabbah out of that problem by offering the answer that we're going to see in a moment. But this is just one Iked Amri. This is the first Iked Amri. There are those who say that he that asked the question, he answered it. Now we go to the next Iked Amri. Yechiel?
Iked Amrei hu Mativ Rav hu Mefrek le. Iked Amrei. Amar le Rava. Achik.
So the next Iked Amri says, there's those who say that it wasn't Rav Shmuel Bar Yitzchak who answered his own question. He just asked the question. So who answered the question? Rabbah himself, the one that the question was on. The one who the question was asked against, he defended himself by offering this answer that the Gemara is now going to relate.
Okay.
Achik Tani. Kol shechayav beben חורין בכוונה, על פי עדים, על פי עדים.
This Hakikatani, this is what the Brisa means. Like this, we're going to learn the Brisa. Literally. Kol shechayva ben chorin. Every case where there's a chiyuv of killing the ben chorin, b'kavanah, the animal killed him b'kavanah. Al pi edim. And it was on the say-so of edim that we know this, not based upon any hodah of the Bailim, which is what Rabbah himself was talking about. That's the way Rabbah explained that Mishnah in Ksubis. He says here, this Brisa is not talking about that. It's talking about case of the animal who killed Ben Chorin b'kavanah on the say-so of Edim. So wherever he's chayav, in that case, kofer, chayav be'eved, knas. In that very case, if it was, in other words, that it was the animal killed b'kavanah, and it was al pi edim, those two aspects of the case, except for the fact that it was not a ben chorin, it was an eved, so there'll be a chiyuv to pay knas in that case. Just like there's a chiyuv to pay kofer in that case on a ben chorin, there'll be a corresponding chiyuv to pay knas in the case of an eved.
And you have the modeh or there was nobody, this is the Bava modeh or?
No.
This is a classical case.
This is a case where there's no hodah of the Bailim, it's just the testimony of the witnesses. Al pi edim. Okay, so what did he do over there? He saved the language of kofer. We are talking about kofer. We're talking about kofer, but we're not talking obviously about kofer for an eved. Where there's a payment of kofer by the ben chorin, so there'll be a payment of knas by the eved. That's the first part of what it says. What's implied in this?
First four, also, Rabbi didn't discuss in the first four dugmot, he didn't say about the kavanah. Also, he's doing this word kavanah.
Yeah. So So the usual case is the animal kills b'kavanah. Unusual case that the animal was scratching his back on the wall and then the wall fell down onto the guy and he died. That's an unusual case. So if the Mishnah didn't mention anything about how the animal killed the person, we would assume that it means in an ordinary case, which means that's the case where he killed b'kavanah. But over here, okay. So now, so Hakikatani, where the animal killed the kavanah al pi edim, just like there'll be a chi of kofer for the ben chorin, there'll be a chi of knas for eved. Now we go to the next half of the din that comes out from this brisa. Let's read the next part. You feel the kol shechayv ben chorin.
וכל שחייב בבן חורין שלא בכוונה,
Good.
על פי עדים,
Right?
דמים,
חייב
בעבד שלא בכוונה, על פי עדים, דמים.
That's it.
So kol shechayv ben chorin. Every time there will be a chiyuv for killing a ben chorin shelo b'kavanah, which was based upon the testimony of witnesses, that wherever there will be a payment of damim in that case, there will also be chayav be'eved. Also, there'll be a chayav for if killing an eved in that very case, shelo b'kavana al pi edim, if he didn't do it b'kavana, and we have edim on it, on the matter, there'll be a payment of damim also. Okay, so like this, what's the accomplishment of this answer?
All of a sudden, the Evid, we have Damim, that we asked how to get the Damim in the Evid, he got Damim, we paid for Damim over here.
We found a chiyuv payment of damim for an Evid, just like we have a chiyuv damim of payment for the Ben Chorin, but it wasn't in the case that Rabbah was talking about. Rabbah was talking about a case of Al Piatzmo, where the owner was moded, that the animal Gordon killed, or that he was moded that the animal was a muad, but there was a hodah. And here, and so in that case where there was a hodah, there's not going to be any payment of damim. In the case of the Eved, that was the chiddush of Rabbah. So now they asked on Rabbah from this brisa, oh, you see over here, Rabbah, it says in this brisa, just like there's a payment of damim for the Ben Chorin, so too there's a payment of damim for the Eved too. Not like you say. Answer is, well, it's not talking about the same case that I was talking about, says Rabbah. It's talking about the case where it was al pi edim, and it was shelo b'kavana. In that case, true, there'll be a payment of damim for the Eved, just like there's a payment of damim for the Ben Chorin. I agree. Okay. So let's now see Rashi's explanation over here. Okay, Phil.
It says kol shechayev v'chulein is chayev. Hachi pirusho the brisa. This is the explanation of the brisa. The katani that taught kol. That says all is lav b'moda. It's not talking about when he admitted. This is not the call. When it taught call, it's lav b'moda with them. This is not the case of when he admits by himself that it's kai, that it's going on. Ella rather the ha'adat edim, with his testimony of witnesses. Because stam call, like a stam case of call, you have witnesses. Midi, the mechayev, that it would be mechayev. What was my phrase again? Mechayev.
The stam call boyed lebezdin. Like an ordinary
somebody makes somebody
case
in
when
mechayev.
where they come to bezdin.
When they come to bezdin,
Usually they come to bezdin because they have edim.
No, it doesn't exist. Oh yeah, I left that. I put the wrong line. Sorry that. Call. I skipped the line. That's why. Call the stam call. A stam call means by levations. They came to Beis Din. The ha'adated edim and the testimony of witnesses. Leika midei mechayev. It's not because it's mechayev ben bechorim, with that it only chayev somebody in bechorim. The low mechayev be'eved and not chayev and be'eved. Lahachi in here that a Gemora that says kol shechayev be'chorim, anybody that chayev of be'chorim b'kavan intentionally al pi adin gets kofer. It's the first case it mentioned in the Brisa. Koloma to say kol shechayev be'chorim, anyone who's chayev of be'chorim kofer, could go in b'kavana like he did intentionally. Al pi edim is chayev. Al pi edim is chayev nami be'eved. Also would be chayev in an eved. B'kavana intentionally. Al pi edim would get a knas. Shkolim. The knas is shkolim. The ha, because this ashur b'skila. Ashur gets skila because there's edim. And once the shore gets Adim, there is Skila,
Right.
and therefore the shore gets Skila, those penalties happen to the other ones. The Kofar happens to the Ben Horim, and the Knas happens to the
Evid.
Evet. That's the first case, when it's Kavana al Pi Adim.
Right.
Now we got to get the second case. Now for the next case though, the kol shechayev ben chorim damim. But when you make somebody chayev of damim, the hechi damim. How does that work? Kagon for it's just like shelo b'kavana al pi edim. This was done if it wasn't intentional with edim. That's for the ben chorim chayev nami. The evid will also make the evid chayev to pay damim. He'd have to pay damim. Mashil damim. Aval, but here's the big aval. So that's the case the Bryce talks about. But what it didn't talk about is aval, aval piyat small. But if he admitted himself, af al gav, even though in that case the ben chorim mishalem dami, the ben chorim does have to pay dami. The evid pata, the evid doesn't pay. Kedamrim, like we said.
That'll be the second case.
Al piyat small, he doesn't pay.
Where there was no skila, so there cannot be any kofar payment. I'll be the Xersa Kosuv. And so since there's no kofar payment, there's a possibility to make another payment of damim, because that's the only payment like that. So it seemed like, in other words, where the animal's not a bar kofar, so that allows for a payment of damim. But when the first case, when the animal was a bar kofar, even though the guy admitted, the kofar will still be paid because it's the tomin payment. It's not. He's not potter because he admitted. In that case, where he paid the kofar, so then there won't be any damim payment. But here in this second case, where there was no witnesses, and therefore there's no kofar, so now that makes room for a damim payment for the ben chorim. But for the eved, no payment. Now why not?
Since we find a difference pay by his own admission. Bain, kofar, whether you know the ben chorim has to pay kofar, the ben chorim, the kofar of a ben chorim, the knas of giving a knas in an eved.
What's the difference he's mentioning? He's
One has
a difference.
There is a difference. One pays kofar and one pays knas.
One doesn't. He doesn't pay the knas.
Right,
That's the difference.
He doesn't pay the knas. Right.
The difference is that in the case of al piatzmo,
he doesn't. He
in the first case,
he doesn't pay. Pays the kofar.
Even though he's al piatzmo, he admitted he
pays
still pays the kofar.
There is a difference because one guy pays
by
the
ben
kofar
chorim,
and the other guy.
But in the case of the third case of the knas, where he also admitted, he's going to be putter on the knas.
Right. So there is a difference about one case.
So since we find this difference in al piatzmo between the ben chorim and the eved, that the al piatzmo case he nevertheless pays the kofar by ben chorim. Mashe enkein, it's not so in the case of the eved. Even in the case of the eved, the al piatzmo case, he's putter on the knas. So since, says Rashi, we find this chiluk between ben chorin and eved, that's what's going to count for the fact that the case 3 and 4 is different. The case 2 and 4 is different. That there will be a payment of damim by the ben chorin, where there will not be a payment of damim by the eved.
Edim without a kavanah, lo eshken chumra b'kofar b'knas. We don't find that kofar should be more chumra, be just as we don't find the chumras of being of kofar doesn't work with the kanas. The hachi here, the hacha, both here and there, he be putter.
He's putter.
Here he be putter for the kanas because he admitted, and here he wouldn't have to pay also in the other case. Hilchot therefore the gabi damim,
because it's a shelo b'kavanah case.
Right.
That's why he's putter on both the
Kofir
kofir as
and
well
knas.
as the knas.
And the Kanas.
There won't be any skila because it's shelo b'kavanah,
Right.
and the din of the shore is the same as the din of the autumn. Just like the autumn is not nisko when he kills shelo b'kavanah, so to the shore has the same din. So there's no din skila. So therefore there's no din kofir or knas either.
This hacha, the hacha b'hacha means referring to
Both cases. This and this.
the
This case and this
Ben
case.
Chorin
And the Evid. You have the two
Yeah.
cases. The Hacha v'Hacha. This and this.
Okay.
They're both Pater.
Therefore,
Therefore, Hilchach L'Gabi Damim. Therefore, a man and Damim, Trivu, both of them,
Yeah.
Kichada. They're like one. It's the same thing.
They're equal.
Therefore,
Regarding Damim, it's both of them the same.
Yeah, you have to pay Damim. They're paying Damim, right?
in that
What's
case
that?
where they don't pay kofir and they don't pay knas,
Right.
they'll pay
They
both
damim.
of them damim.
Damim.
Mashen Kain in the other case of the Al Piyat Smo.
Wednesday. Get back to my. Get to the grandkids. Pick them up from school.
Stay dry.
Hopefully she won't get too wet waiting for me. There's a porch to go under.
Oh, yeah.
I should get hopefully the start far.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, Kol Tuv. Okay. So that's Rashi's explanation over here of this answer. That's what Rashi says. Hoil u'metzinu chiluk. Since we find a chiluk, a difference in the case of Al Piatzmo that Rabbah was talking about, bein kofer leben chorin leknas le'evid. What was the chiluk? The chiluk was that in that case, of Baal Peh, not Baal Peh, what do we call it? Al Piatzmo. In the case of Al Piatzmo, meaning where he admitted, in the case where the owner admitted, we find a difference in the din between the case of the Ben Chorin and the Evid. There's a payment of kofir, but there will not be a payment of knas in that case where the owner admitted.
Right.
That's the difference between case number 1 and case number 3.
Right.
It will, in other words, we did have aiding that the animal gored and killed the person, but we didn't have aiding that the animal was a muad, which we would need both for the din of kofir and as well for the din of knas. So that was the hodah of the owner, and even though he made a hodah on that, he'll still have to pay the kofir. But in the case of the knas, if he made a hodah that the animal was a ben chor, the animal was a muad, he will not pay the knas. So that's the chiluk that Rashi says that we find in between ben chorin and evid.
It's the first case and the third case.
First and the third case, and therefore that's Rashi's explanation of what accounts for Rabbah's din in the second and the fourth case. You will find a payment of damim by the Ben Chorin in the Al Piatzmo case. Sorry. You will find a payment of damim, just like you found a payment of kofir, but you will not find a payment of damim in the case of the Evid, just like you didn't find a payment of knas when the owner admitted himself. So that was what Rabbah was talking about. But in this case of the Brisa, Aval, Rashi says, Be'edim shelo b'kavanah, in this case that the Brisa is talking about, it's talking about a case that there were edim, there was no admission on the Bailim, and it was shelo b'kavanah. So since it was shelo b'kavanah, there can't be a din misa, and therefore there can't be a din knas. Oh, but what about the din damim then? Here we say, says Rabbah, that there will be a din damim by the Evid, just like there's a din damim by the the Ben Chorin. Why? Why do we say that there's an equality in this case of Al Pi Eidim and Shelo B'Kavanah? Because there's an equality between them in regard to the case of the Kofir and the Knas. Because if the case was Al Pi Eidim that the animal killed B'Kavanah, so now there's going to be a din skila, and also there'll be a din kofir, and also a din knas. So we see the din kofir and knas is equal in that case where there was edim that he killed b'kavanah. So now when we go to the case of shelo b'kavanah, there's no possibility of kofir and knas. So we say that there's a possibility of paying damim, and there'll be payment of damim in the case of Eved, just like there is in the case of Ben Chorin. So that's the answer that either Rabba gave, or according to the first Dikah de Amre, the first view of the Gemora, that Rav Shmuel Bar Yitzchak himself gave. But the answer is this answer.
What did he say that there was Rav Shmuel ben Bar Yitzchak said that? There's a Yeshomim that says that?
Yeah, that's the first thing the Gemara says. Dikah de Amre, who mosiv lo? He asked the question, v'hu mefarik lo, and he answered the question.
And that would be the answer what we just read. That Rabbi says.
Yeah.
Dikah de Amre, Rabbi says. Okay.
Right. Right. The kasha was based upon the fact that he said, oh, the Bryce is talking about damim, and you see that there's a payment of damim. Kasha on Rabbah. So we're answering, yeah, Rabbah agrees that there will be a payment of damim for an Eved in a different case, not the case that he was talking about before. He was talking about the case of Al Pi Atzmo, the Kavanah. But in the case of Eidim, Shelo B'Kavanah, then there will be a payment of damim. There will be a payment of damim. Oh, it's a little bit incongruous, because you would have thought that Shelo B'Kavanah, if Shelo B'Kavanah has a payment of damim, isn't it all the more so that a case of B'Kavanah should have a payment of damim? He did it intentionally.
Well, that's the Kofir and the Kanas. He pays Kofir in that case.
The fourth case, he killed intentionally.
He's damim.
But
The
that's
owner
Piyat
admitted.
Small. That was a Piyat Small though.
Fine. So he said, that'll pater him from the knas. But why the damim?
It doesn't answer the question even here. There's no answer.
No Kavanah.
That's-
Kavanah is no Kavanah.
It's the same question that we had before here.